Let's talk about organizing your Schoology course with some tips for clear communication and navigation. It has become abundantly clear to the admin team, to Holly, Steve, and myself, Lee, that we need to all get on the same page for the sake of our students and parents who are dealing with so much frustration and confusion on their end. We looked at the Schoology courses for probably about half of the school and found lots of patterns and trends for what works and what doesn't work. So why do you need great course organization? In a study of online classrooms, they have discovered that students viewed teaching presence through the lens of all interaction they had with their teacher, from emails to announcements and assignments to much subtler background signals like the way the course itself is organized. The digital tools that you use become extensions of your teaching. In other words, blurring the lines between your physical and virtual persona. It's not your real-time presence that matters as much in the world of online learning. So when teaching online, you should try to focus on asynchronous lessons and communications. It's easy to forget that online classrooms, like real ones, must also be navigable and easy to understand, and that your online teaching presence is often communicated not by posture and tone, for example, but by your virtual classroom's organization and clarity. We see those themes reflected in the concerns of the parents that have been reaching out to the admin team so frequently. Here's one message from a parent in an email. I've been trying to help my son work the system. In Schoology, there were no missing assignments, but in Parent View, there were several missing assignments listed. My child is having difficulty finding all of the different assignments in different places. From another parent, my daughter is having a difficult time with the new calendar in Schoology. In Schoology, every assignment is gray. In addition, teachers are labeling the assignments in a way that is hard to associate them with the class. For example, Day 9-10, rather than Science Day 9-10. If students have 8 classes and none of the teachers are using identifiers like English or history for their assignments, the kids are going to have a very hard time keeping up with the work. Both of these parents make super valid points, and we are going to ask all of our Irving staff to take some time today to make some tweaks and corrections to address these problems. These are new problems, right? These are not things that would have been issues in the past, which is why we weren't prepared for this, quite frankly. But now that we're seeing how this is working, as we're in October, we have much better ideas of how to make this a much friendlier user experience for students and parents. The first thing we're going to reiterate is that all teachers must organize chronologically, with the most recent items at the top being a little tweak we'd like to add now. When we sort of audited, looked at all of the different courses and the ways teachers were organizing them, we immediately found that when teachers organize chronologically, it's 100 times clearer. Remember, it's not just your course everyone's navigating, they're also navigating 7 other courses, and they don't have the background knowledge that you do. Calendar dates like September 17th or October 3rd mean something to everybody. So we don't need to micromanage the actual format of the date as long as that calendar date is included. You can actually go the extra step to color code your folders so that the recent one at the top is a kind of brighter color. That's a really nice way to draw your users' attention right to where they need to go today. It's really helpful. Don't organize by theme or topic anymore. This was a perfectly good way to organize things on your hard drive. It's a perfectly good way of organizing things in your filing cabinets and in your own brain and when you're collaborating with your content team. But each of these 3 examples basically means nothing to students and parents. They don't have those kind of schema and pieces of prior knowledge that would be necessary, like the difference between a notebook and a journal, or the difference between an activity, an assignment, or assessment. Reading and writing, how is that separated? Assignments and materials. These are all things that mean something to us as teachers, but don't mean anything to the parents of your students. So we ask you to take some time today and kind of tease these things out and put them back into chronological order, the way your users experience them as they move through your course. Do include those calendar dates either in the folder name or in the description. It's very common for us to call things week 1, week 2, week 3, but that, again, that's actually just teacher jargon. That doesn't really mean anything to students and parents. They're not keeping track of that kind of pacing calendar the way teachers are. So the fact that in the folder description here, the actual calendar dates was included is that vital piece that your users needed. So that's a great way to sort of meet both your needs and your users' needs together. Don't have any inconsistent or overlapping dates. In the middle, we see an example of overlapping dates. If I was looking for September 28th, I would have to look in 2 folders. Same thing with October 5th. We know why teachers would need to have overlapping dates. Units often overlap, especially in science. Some labs take longer than others, and there's always a lot of overlap. That aside, you will need to organize chronologically in order for your users to navigate the page. So you need to find a way to kind of resort that like you see here. Also on the left and the right, you see examples of different ways of like formatting or naming the folder. And though if you took some time to really look at that, you could figure it out, but it's that time of figuring things out that we want to spare our students and parents from. The more time they spend looking at first period, and then again at second, and then at third, and then at fourth, the more time they're spending feeling lost, the more stressed out they're getting, and the less cognitive space they have left over to actually focus on learning your material. Do add folder descriptions. This was something we discovered that our clearest Schoology courses are doing. We've done that in the all-student course, like you see on the left. Those titles of the folders don't mean much, but the description provides that background knowledge, essentially, that you need so that students and parents would know where to click. Same thing on the right. This folder, for example, resources, that title would mean nothing to students and parents, but that numbered list in the description below makes it super clear what can be found in there. So please add some folder descriptions whenever that's relevant. It's super helpful to your users. Don't just use folder titles like you see here. These mean quite a lot to us as teachers, but again, your parents and students, they're going to have to click in like 3 or 4 different places to figure out how you've organized this in your head. So again, consider like strangers perusing your course, can they find their way around? Use descriptive names for the titles of things. We see on the left, every folder, every file, every link has a descriptive title. Even though there's like 7 assignments and things listed there, I can figure out pretty much right away what they all are before I click on them. Whereas on the right, these are ways that you would like name things on your computer, but they don't mean anything to a parent or a student going back to it several days later. Do avoid that. So let's get back to those parent concerns that we heard earlier. Assignments from all classes get listed together in the student view, and this can be very confusing for students and parents. If you look at the example on the right, there are many assignments listed there, and it's almost impossible to know which class they came from. The only one that I really know is that this came from math, because it has the word math there. All the others here could have been from any class. So we're going to ask you to change your habits. We've learned a lesson here. We need all teachers to add their course subject to all assignment, assessment, and discussion board titles. You can go back and do that for old things. Anything with a due date and anything that is graded needs to have this. For example, math, tying it all together. Example, science, student guarantee. If we do that, then the list of upcoming items for students is going to look more like this, and it's super clear this way. Now we know that this one came from rock block, this assessment came from science, this discussion board came from health and PE. This is something that parents and students can look at, and they don't have to click on 5 different things to find out which 5 classes they came from. This is going to save them lots of time and avoid lots of stress. So we ask you to go back to your old assignments. You can do this straight through your grade book in Schoology and just add the title of your course subject there. And then finally, just some things to really consider. Remember that everything with the due date gets listed together in that student view under upcoming. And this can be overwhelming for students when it gets clogged up with things that don't really need to be there. I don't know this for a fact, but like, let's say this warm up, like term sort, like maybe that's not something you really needed somebody to make up after the fact. Maybe that was just an in the moment formative assessment. You could save your students and parents some stress by keeping it off of this feed of upcoming assignments by leaving off that due date. Consider when it makes sense not using due dates for those ungraded items. Also, please be aware of when your SIS and Schoology don't match. The Schoology gradebook stores feedback, so you'll probably have a lot more stuff in your Schoology gradebook than your SIS gradebook. The SIS gradebook stores grades. It can be confusing for your users when assignments listed in SIS cannot be found in Schoology. It's fine if your Schoology gradebook has things that aren't in SIS. I don't think that's confusing for parents or students, but the other way around, when things in SIS cannot be found in Schoology, that's quite confusing. So consider, if you need to add assignments that are graded and have due dates in Schoology, even if the submissions are disabled. For example, maybe you just graded something in the moment, like an oral presentation. You don't need students to actually submit files. You could toggle this button to submissions disabled. Just put a due date and a category on there so that it shows up in the Schoology gradebook and in the list of upcoming assignments that students need to prepare for. Then after that due date passes, you can autofill the column in the Schoology gradebook so that everybody gets 100 out of 100, and mark the few students that were missing it as such. If you're taking the active step to mark something missing in SIS, you probably need to also take that active step to mark it missing in Schoology, or at least to make sure that it's showing up as overdue or not turned in on Schoology. That way parents aren't confused when they're comparing the two and trying to help their students stay on top of everything. We know this is a lot and it requires change, so please reach out to us with your questions, your feedback for us, and after you go through and you add your subject name to assignments and reorganize chronologically, do feel free to ask, like, hey Lee, hey Holly, can you check out my course? Is it clear now? Having a second set of eyes on your course, especially a set of eyes that's like not familiar with your course, not on your content team, can be invaluable. Thank you all. Have a great day.